The wrap up there of the debate, former President Trump making his closing statement, wrapping up the first presidential debate hosted by CNN, with Mr. Trump facing off against President Biden.
The two men debated for about an hour and 40 minutes or so and clashed repeatedly on the major topics of the day, including economy, abortion, immigration, childcare, Social Security, and of course, the key issue, the competence of both men, both one of the oldest presidents in history, if elected.
The candidates also traded several personal attacks. We heard about golf scores, among other things. It was a very, very contentious debate. Let's bring in Meet the Press moderator Kristen Welker, and in the debate spin room, senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson. And Kristen, let me begin with you. What are the headlines being written right now about this debate?
Well, Lester and Savannah, there's no way to sugarcoat this. This night got off to a tough start for President Biden. He delivered a performance that was at times halting. At times he seemed to lose his train of thought. At times he started to talk about one topic, for example, the economy, and then shifted to Afghanistan, which gave former President Trump an opening. And the topic of abortion, his strongest topic coming into tonight, he raised the issue of immigration, which gave former President Trump an opening. As the night progressed, he did begin to pick up steam. He had some really strong moments on the issues of what his administration, for example, has done for veterans. But zooming out, this was a debate about performance. This was a debate about allaying Americans' concerns about his ability to serve another 4 years. And I and a number of reporters at NBC News have heard from a range of Democrats who have said that they are concerned by tonight's debate. One telling me of this race, quote, "This is effectively over." This person predicting, look, Democrats are still going to stand by Biden, despite the fact that you do have some Democrats tonight wondering if that will be the case moving forward. But there has been some tough language that people have been reaching out to offer in terms of the performance that they saw tonight from President Biden. It is also important to note, former President Trump unleashed a torrent at times of misinformation, some of which President Biden fact-checked, some of which went unanswered. You have to wonder if the format of this debate, the fact that the mics were muted, may have played a role in this. But again, a slow start to this debate for President Biden. He did pick up steam. We'll have to see how people play it.
Let's go to Hallie Jackson, who's in the spin room down in Atlanta. And I mean, here's a race that in some ways was essentially tied, perhaps, Donald Trump in the most of the national polls and swing state polls going into it had a lead in most of them. The Biden campaign wanted and needed a compelling performance from their candidate. Did they get it?
If a voter, Savannah, was tuning in, looking to see about concerns being alleviated about President Biden's age or strength or capability for office, it is not at all clear that that is what they got from this performance by President Biden tonight, which was shaky. It was a shaky start, wooden at times, meandering at times. I will tell you that in about the back half of the debate, maybe the latter third of the debate, I heard from a Democratic lawmaker, a member of Congress who has been a strong supporter of President Biden's, who suggested the possibility, Savannah, of perhaps an open convention or replacing President Biden on the ticket. I will tell you, it is all but potentially impossible for that to actually happen. But the fact that that is even being raised, the fact that that is even a shadow now hanging over the debate performance for President Biden is at minimum a headache for the Biden campaign moving into the next stretch of this campaign ahead of the Republican convention in the next couple weeks, and at worst, potentially something that will dog them now for months, given what we have seen from voters in polling consistently, which is, yes, concern about President Biden's age. Now, all of that said, I'm in the spin room, and they call it the spin room for a reason, Savannah. It is because you have surrogates here for both campaigns, and of course the Biden campaign out here trying to make the case that their candidates did well. And I will tell you what some of the early spin is now from Team Biden, suggesting that former President Trump's answer, for example, on January 6th, was not a good one, that people are turned off by his insults, by his attacks on President Biden here. But remember the sort of social economy that we're in right now, Savannah and Lester, this idea that these sort of clippable, shareable moments are what people tend to see if they're not watching tonight, then perhaps the next day or the day after. And there are some moments here that the Biden campaign is going to find tough to swallow based on the president's performance tonight.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the spin room and surrogates, we want to do that right now and go to Biden campaign national co-chair, former Mayor Mitch Landrieu. And Mr. Mayor, I mean, let's just put a fine point on it. Was this the commanding performance from your candidate you hope to see?
Well, I thought it was a really bare knuckles brawl. I think they're right. The president started off slow, but then he came back. But the most compelling thing about tonight that you were right about more than you're right about anything else is that when Donald Trump was speaking, he was lying. And the fact that there was no
No, he wasn't.
it's really hard to debate somebody who is untethered from the truth. He doubled down on the fact
that's not
that
true.
January 6th really wasn't a big deal. He doubled down on the fact that he thought those folks were patriots. He doubled down on the fact that he was an election denier. He doubled down on the fact that he thought reversing Roe versus Wade was a great idea. He doubled down on the fact that the economy was the best in the world when in fact it was not. And so these debates have a way of coursing over time. But before tomorrow morning, when you fact check what was said, you are going to find out that almost everything that Donald Trump said tonight was a fabricated lie. And the fact
will
that
that be
you
the
fact check him in time is difficult.
Mr. Mayor, will that be the
believe it.
conversation, or will the conversation be about the physical performance?
That's right.
I think because of the way people analyze debates, it's going to be at first about the physical performance. But when you get into the substance of what was said, I think the takeaway from this was that Joe Biden was right on the substance. He told the truth. He has a better record. America is stronger. People respect us more. The economy is better. And Donald Trump, literally, to every question that was asked of him, he did not tell the truth. It was like he was living in another universe.
That is
But if
so
you
not
can't fact
true.
check somebody, and somebody isn't ashamed of not telling the truth, it is a very difficult situation. And I thought you saw
Whatever.
that in real time tonight. But what you also did see was President Biden actually fighting for the people that really he believes in, and Donald Trump becoming obsessed again with himself and almost being unhinged in some moments.
Mr. Mayor, you talk about fact checks. One of the key issues in this campaign, and the polls show it over and over again, a core issue for voters is whether or not President Biden has the competence and ability to complete a second term. So the fact check is before their eyes. They're able to assess it. Was the President Biden that you saw tonight the individual you know? So if people assess based on what they saw tonight that this is the president who will serve another 4 years, are you comfortable with that assessment based on what you saw tonight?
I am. I served with President Biden for 2 years. I was with him on a regular basis, and I've seen him recently. I think that he's fine. I think he had a cold tonight. I think he looked a little sluggish when he came out, but as the night went on, I think he really kind of rose to the occasion. It's going to be a very, very difficult night. It was a bare knuckles brawl, but I'm proud of the fact that he stood up to Donald Trump and the mistruths that he told, and he tried to lay his plan out for the American people.
All right, Mitch Landrieu, Biden campaign co-chair, thank you so much. We want to turn now to our
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Our senior national correspondent, Tom Yamas, is on the floor of the spin room. Tom, what are you hearing?
Hey, Savannah, good to be with you tonight. So listen, campaigns, elections, they are all about strategies. The Biden campaign strategy in the spin room is a little odd right now. All these people are waiting for any Democratic strategist to come out, anyone from the Biden campaign, anybody who supports Joe Biden to come out here and defend his performance. Right now, you can see there are not a lot of people here. To be fair, they have chosen a different space from what we understand. They're going to have surrogates there as well. But if I turn the camera around the spin room, all these people here, these people are talking to Trump supporters. These are Trump surrogates that are out here, right? People like Vivek Ramaswamy, people like Representative Stefanik. We saw Senator Rubio enter the room as well. Essentially, the point I'm trying to make is that the Trump team is out here on the offense. They're out here saying basically that President Biden had a very bad debate, that President Trump, obviously the candidate they're supporting, had a much better debate, and that the decision now is clear, right? That if the American viewers, the voters saw the performance from President Biden, the choice is clear. Again, I'm sure in the moments to come, President Biden will be out. Somebody from his team will come out here and defend the president's performance. But right now, again, listen, all these reporters, and there's dozens of them, are waiting for anyone to come out right now from the Biden campaign. And listen, this is the spin room. So even though they have a different room that they wanted to put their people in, as far as strategy goes, as far as where the reporters are, this is where everyone is right now. And again, all these piles of people you see here, all these reporters, these cameras, they're surrounding Trump surrogates. You can see the signs up there, right? Senator Tim Scott. Let's walk over. Vivek Ramaswamy's over here. Senator Marco Rubio's over here. Let's go see if we can get Senator Rubio real quick to see what he says. We're going to send it back to you guys in the studio as we give you a live shot of Senator Rubio, and we'll stay out here in the spin room floor.
All right, very good, Tom. Thank you. Joining us now from the debate spin room is North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum. Governor, good evening. Thank you for being with us.
Lester, great to be with you.
We heard from the surrogate for the Biden campaign that President Trump, in their view, flooded the zone with untruths, half-truths. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think my reaction is that President Trump had a very strong performance that I think America saw if they saw the challenges that Joe Biden had just delivering a message, and he didn't have an answer on inflation, he didn't have an answer on the border, and I think that's what the Americans I talk to, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, those are the two things that are affecting them most. The border isn't about immigration; it's about national security and public safety, and we didn't hear answers to that. And I think, me as a business guy listening to it, it's clear that Joe Biden's got a 50-year-long philosophy, which is essentially anti-business. Right now, of course, America's economy buried in regulation. He wants to raise taxes, and every solution is higher taxes and more spending. And so I think that people didn't see anything new. There was no vision there, and people know that they were better off under President Trump. And so I think tonight, big win for President Trump.
And Governor, on style points, the fact that there was no audience, do you think that in the end helped the former president?
Well, I think that President Trump showed what he shows a lot of people, which is whether he's in small groups or whether he's at fundraisers. I mean, he's right now, he's in a great spot. He's calm, he's strong, he's confident. I mean, this is not the guy that was running in 2016. He knows what it's like to be president. He's done it before. He's surrounded himself by a great campaign team, and I think he's very confident about how he's going forward. I think that showed in his performance tonight.
Governor, can I ask you something? A lot of folks are just tuning in, really paying attention. They're not political junkies like you or I may be, and they're just tuning in right now. And one of the last things they remember, of course, is January 6th, the president losing the election, but claiming he didn't, people rioting at the Capitol. Here he was again tonight, asked point blank, if you lose the election, will you concede? And he just doesn't answer the question directly. He's always hedging it with if it's free and fair. And of course, the implication is it's not free and fair if he's not the winner. Why doesn't he just come right out and say, of course, I'll accept the results of this election?
Well, I think you heard him say that at the end. It would be easier for him if everybody thought we had secure elections, but we know in our country, being a democracy, this is a challenge.
Yeah, but that's the kind of that's just a red herring, because I mean, he got to litigate it. He had the advantages of our democracy and our courts and every other institution, which found that it was a free and fair election, and yet he's still on about that.
No,
And he
it
won't say
wasn't.
that he'll accept the results of this election. I just don't get that.
Well, I think for
No, it
any of
wasn't.
us that were around, and
No, it
I was
wasn't.
also part of that 2020 election, we had a free and fair election in North Dakota. We've got election security there, but we had so many rule changes in 2020 with COVID. We had record number of mail out, not mail in ballots, but mailing out, flooding the zone with all these ballots to non-updated voter files. Unmonitored drop boxes. I mean, you can verify that this is the number of ballots that got counted, but I'm a guy that spent my life in tech and in business processes, and when you've got unmonitored documents that don't have any control over the path of that document, you don't know where it came from, you don't know where it's been. That would never pass any kind of audit from a quarterly audit from a public company. So I think we all want the same thing. And if America, whether it's the 2000 election, which was challenged, down in one county in Florida, the 2016 election, which people claimed there's Russian interference, the 2020 election. I mean, 3 of our last 5 elections, either of the different parties have been saying there was concerns. It would be fantastic.
We can't let you get out of here without asking you a question about the VP selection process. What are you hearing? Obviously, your name is one of the top 3.
Well, have you been asked to be VP? Because the former president says his VP was there tonight. You're there. Marco Rubio's there. J.D. Vance is there. Have you been asked to be VP?
There's so much talent in the Republican Party here tonight. I think the real question has got to be on the Democrat side. I'm sure that's the question right now is the choice that Joe Biden made 4 years ago.
Do you expect,
what are they doing going forward?
Do we expect to know who his vice presidential pick is this week? Keeping in mind it's Thursday night.
Again, tonight is about President Trump's big victory, and he'll make that decision.
Have you been asked?
He'll make a good one. He'll make it at the time of his choosing.
Have you been asked?
There's only one person to know who's the next VP is, and that is President Trump.
I knew how that question would go, Governor.
Okay.
Thank
I think
you
that's
so
a
much.
no. He hasn't been asked. All right,
Thank you.
Governor, thank you.
NBC's Gadi Schwartz has been watching the debate with voters known as double haters in Phoenix. Those are voters who don't like either candidate. Gadi, what are you
Yeah.
hearing?
Wow, double haters. Hey, Lester, yeah, we started off
Double
tonight talking about
haters.
double haters. As that debate went on, double hate, it's probably not the word that this panel would use to describe their feelings on one or possibly both candidates. I mean, we were just talking about it. How would you describe this? Double what?
Double frustrated.
Double frustrated. How about you?
Double cringe.
Double cringe. And I was watching you as you were watching this debate. I saw a lot of cringing. I saw a lot of anger at sometimes. If there was one moment that stuck out to you, what would it be for you?
The moment when they started to go back and forth about golfing.
Golfing towards the end.
Yeah, like what does that have to do with the question that the moderator asked? And they just kept going back and forth, and it was just like, is this real? Like it just felt really weird to see them going back and forth like that.
And Denise, how about you? What was a moment that stuck out to you?
Well, first, if I could just finish, he did that. He did this a lot. I would like to say we are not in one of Donald Trump's many properties. We are in heat-filled Phoenix, Arizona, where we are suffering from climate change. So to say that there's no problem with our climate is yet another lie, because there were so many lies told today. But a cringe moment was just, I felt like they were in first grade, second grade. It was, nothing is Donald Trump's fault. It's all the Democratic judges that Biden put into office. Nothing is Joe Biden's fault either. It's all, I had to clean up your mess. So figure it out, boys, because you're both wrong.
And Nicole, when it comes to, I mean, I saw you cringing a few times during Biden's speaking. What were your thoughts when you were watching that?
I mean, he just really struggles to get out of coherent thoughts. And then he gets sidetracked and he can't get back onto the conversation. It's really challenging to watch him.
And this is one of those debate watch parties where three of you said that you wouldn't have made it past maybe 3 or 4 questions. You would have turned it off. Very insightful coming from Phoenix, Arizona.
People still sorting out their feelings about what they saw tonight. Gotti, thanks. We have much more coverage of the first presidential debate right after this.